Like if you spend time in these deep waters enough time, right, you're gonna get tapped, right, by
Yeah.
lower belts than you, right? Like, but the key is to just like not care.
What's the most efficient path to victory against this particular opponent?
He's dropping off for the choke here. We could see the finish. It's looking tight. Tight at Alpra.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Essential Jiu Jitsu Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kwan. The Essential Jiu Jitsu Podcast is everything you need to know about Jiu Jitsu. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Robert Degle. What's up, Robert Degle?
Hey, not much.
How you doing, man? You're in Thailand, you said?
Yeah, I'm in Bangkok. I'm teaching at a couple different gyms here, and then going around the region, competing, and doing seminars. Yeah.
Nice. What gym did you say you're teaching at?
So I'm teaching classes at 3 different gyms. So one of the gyms is called Ohana. That's by Chitlone BTS. And then I'm also teaching at a gym called The Crack near Asok BTS. And then at a gym called Forever Young, which is right outside my apartment building in Akamai, right near Akamai BTS. So 3 different gyms, pretty busy. And then I train whenever I teach. And I train like sometimes I train at other places too, but mainly I train in the places that I'm teaching at, like with my own students.
Cool. And like when you got over there, was it already pre-planned that you were going to teach at these spaces, or did you have to like go and talk to them? Did you shoot them a message first? What was sort of how did you sort of get picked up by these guys?
Well, I mean, I was coming here at first only to teach at a gym called Ohana. Like that was originally what I came back to Thailand for. And then I met this guy named Patrick, who he owns the other 2. And I met him, and then he offered me more classes, and more classes means more money. So I'm not going to say no to that. So, yeah. So that wasn't planned, but the Ohana thing was planned. But yeah, it came together.
Yeah. How would you say the level is over there, especially for someone who, like yourself, who is still, competing against the best guys or trying to get, to ADCC Worlds eventually? How do you find the level over there in terms of how it helps your preparation?
Thailand is a unique country in that regard because, like, okay, so it's like it's probably the Asian country that I've been to with the like most sharp divide between foreigners and locals in terms of like who trains with who, right? So there are actually some pretty good Thais. They're mostly like colored belts, but they're still like pretty good. And they mainly train like with each other. Whereas like the foreigners, like you'll train with Thais for sure, right? But you'll predominantly be training with other foreigners. I mean, I know gyms where I don't know any Thais that train there, right? And there's a ton of people training there, and they're almost all foreigners. So when you talk about the level of jiu-jitsu in Thailand, I think you need to like separate, okay, are you talking about Thai locals or are you talking about foreigners? And I almost don't think there's a point in talking about them as like a combined thing because they're not necessarily all training with one another. Like the Thai national team is pretty good, but like, other than having competed against 2 of them, I've rolled with a couple of them at like open mats, but I never trained with them per se, right? So I couldn't really give you a strong opinion on them. I think competing against 2 of them and rolling with them, I think they're solid, but I can't give like an in-depth answer, right? And then here in Bangkok, the level of the foreigners is, it's very mixed. You get like a lot of people traveling through, and I'd say they're mostly like on the lower level of things, right? Phuket, by contrast, you get a much higher level of guy because there are a lot of MMA fighters there. So you get like, you're going to get higher levels of guys there because it's like a combat sports destination, whereas that's not really what Bangkok is, right? Bangkok is a much bigger city than Phuket. Phuket is population-wise not even comparable, but you have a ton of foreigners that are there who are like fighters. Especially like you have a fuckload of Russians in Phuket who are very tough. But yeah, so I would say that probably this is the worst training I've ever had in my life. Like in a place that I've stayed long term. I've stayed in London, I've stayed in Singapore, New York, and Austin, right? All those places have better training. But that being said, I mean, I'm making it work, right? There's some guys here who I train with fairly consistently, some blue belts who I think are pretty tough, athletic, right? They work hard, right? I have a student here named Yannick, he's a Dutch kid. He just started training like a month ago, but he's already like picking things up really quick. Shows up like every single day. And, you know, he's very inexperienced, but he's pretty athletic, so I can get like good work with him. I have to be very like strategic with my training, right? Like I can't, if I just go in and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to smash everybody. It's going to be extremely easy and it's not going to be very hard. And I will get like nothing out of that, right? So I was rolling with a student of mine named Diego, who's Colombian, and I passed his guard and I pinned him in side control, and then I got up and let him out, and he looked at me, he goes, something wrong? And I was like, no, what's the point of me holding you here, right? Like, you're a white belt, I'm just gonna, if I just hold you in side control for the rest of the round, I get nothing out of it, you get nothing out of it. I'd rather let you get your guard back, I can work on passing it again, right? Like, we're both gonna get more out of that, right? So yeah, so while I think the training is not as good here as it has been in the other places that I've lived, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like bad per se. You just have to be more creative about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And I think Hodger Gracie's talked about that when he first opened his gym, how he had a bunch of lower ranked guys, and he basically did that. Like, he just let them put him in horrible positions and really tested the late stage defenses, right? I think that's such an effective way to train. Obviously, in the training room, your performance is going to suffer for the most part because you're hanging out in a bad position as much as you can and trying to work your way out. But that's just like such a good way to build that experience, so you have that confidence in those later phases of submissions and pins and things like that. Like, one game that we've been playing lately is just basically hang out in the saddle or outside Ashy, or it could be any entanglement really. And you basically just sit in the entanglement and try not to get submitted, but you don't like clear your knee line unless you absolutely have to. You just like give them your foot basically and just like manipulate your foot and hide your heel and be annoying and try to go to like the very last stage before you have to tap out. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do that exact same thing all the time. So that same guy, Diego, he's a white belt, but I taught him the Shashinsky style shotgun ankle lock, and he's picked up it really, really well. And I will let him do it to me and try to not get tapped, right? Like, yesterday he had me in one that hurt so fucking bad, but I was able to survive, right? Not get injured. And then he was like worried. He's like, am I going too hard with it? I was like, no, it's good for me. Like, I want to be in those spots. I want to feel, you want to feel that heat, right? That danger, and then survive in those situations. That's going to help you improve. And yeah, I mean, you, as a coach or a higher level guy, you have to like, to some degree, like, remove your ego from the equation, right? Like, you have to like, so when I lived in Singapore, I had a training partner who was a blue belt. And it was a similar kind of thing where I let him attack my legs and he got me with an ankle lock and I tapped, right? I could have maybe been I could have maybe pushed through and got out, or maybe I would have gotten injured, right? So I tapped. He got me in a sub, right? And he was like, oh, did I do something wrong? It was the first time he tapped me. He's like, oh, did I do something wrong? I was like, no, you just got me with a sub, right? Like, that's how it is, right? Like, if you spend time in these deep waters enough time, right, you're gonna get tapped, right, by lower belts than you, right? Like, but the key is to just like not care, right? Like, I had a visiting Italian purple belt, very, very talented, very, very good at certain submissions. I passed his guard and he caught me with a buggy choke, and I tapped. Right? It's like, fuck, like, no one wants to tap to a
I've been caught multiple times with that. One time in competition, it fucking sucks so bad.
Yeah. I hate that.
The worst.
Yeah. It's like,
especially if you're a body lock passer, right? They give you the side body lock and then they just hook it up and you're like, especially if like you and me, we're pretty small guys, and I find like you roll with these big, long, lanky guys, I can body lock past them, and some of them have figured out the buggy choke really well, and man, it's a legit submission. It sucks being stuck in a buggy choke.
Yeah. It's funny, man, because I've realized I view the buggy choke the way Brazilians from like 5 to 7 years ago viewed leg locks, right? It's like,
so true.
Yeah, we're the out of touch old
It doesn't
men.
work. It doesn't work well for my body. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
We're kind of built similarly. We're like shorter, stockier, right? I find
don't even
if
try
you're
it.
longer and lankier, and I find I could be totally off base, but I find people with like slender torsos tend to be able to do that move better than guys like me who are just like stocky and wide. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. I just find it more difficult to wrap my body around my partner's head and arm. Do
Yeah.
you still teach and train in the gi?
Occasionally. So I was teaching and training in the gi one time a week at Ohana. I'm not anymore. It's all been switched to no gi. But I
Like
mean,
they don't offer gi anymore, or they do offer it?
I don't teach anymore. So I was teaching in the gi, but then they would just change to no gi. So like,
Yeah.
because I think that's what people want to learn from me more anyway.
I'm experiencing that too at my school.
Yeah. I mean, I like some gi training. I think there are certain parts of gi training which I do enjoy, but overall, I just fucking annoys me so much. Like,
Of course, it is annoying.
yeah, I had a student in Turtle, okay, and like he just was holding on to like my my wrist. I'm trying to get it out. I'm not good at grip breaks because I'm not really like that experienced in the gi. So I trained a lot in the gi up to purple belt. Like mid purple belt is when I made the shift to like almost exclusively no gi. And I might have said this on podcasts before. The big reason why I switched was actually injuries from gripping. So I hurt this thumb very, very bad from grip fighting, and I just didn't want to deal with that anymore. So I switched predominantly to no-gi. And then around the time that I switched predominantly to no-gi was sort of when no-gi was starting to grow anyway. I mean, when I started like focusing on no-gi, it was a pretty barren landscape in terms of like tournaments, or like, if you were like a no-gi guy, there wasn't really that much you could do. Like, and eventually now it's grown a lot. So it's very much the case now that it's almost easier, I think, to be a no-gi guy. But I think when I did the switch, not really. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting how gi and no-gi are like just two completely different sports. Like you really, for the longest time, I didn't quit the gi, but I kind of switched my focus from gi to no-gi, especially when I discovered leg locks in the brown belt days. Back in the days when you could just spam leg locks and they would constantly work. And now, they weren't getting shut down. I know those days were good. Now it's like it's hard to get leg locks unless you're going with someone who just doesn't have the technology. Everyone's pretty educated. It's kind of happened in the last couple of years. But as I was saying, when I didn't quit the gi. I still do the gi. I've always done the gi, but I didn't focus on it. I just kind of neglected that area of training. And then when I started competing in the gi, at the higher levels, I couldn't do anything. Like I was missing some key strategies and key movements just because of my no-gi focus, and I didn't have like the proper guard or grip fighting strategies. So I've really tried to fix that over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 months, and it's been fun, man. The gi is like, it's like I said, just totally different, and I find certain things that apply in no-gi don't necessarily apply to the gi, like one I always talk about would be, just battling for inside position, just like basic, kind of like the Danaher strategy where everything's just inside, like Ashigarami, right? And in the gi, it doesn't even matter if the guy's got inside position for certain situations. Like, for example, the long step pass, you can just long step past someone's frames. It doesn't really matter if they have everything inside because you're already on the collar, and the way Tynan finishes it, like, so I was just like looking through a lens. Another thing I would do is I would hunt leg locks in the gi, and it would end up getting me in these bad positions, because I was going for the legs when normally it would be very, very effective. Now these guys can just like grab me and hold me, and you're like, fuck, I'm getting leg dragged when normally I would be in on a submission here, right?
Yeah. So it's yeah. I feel very similarly where I think that it's a different but related sport, right? And I don't want to completely abandon the gi ever. So someday when I own a school, I want to have gi and no gi classes, but definitely like 90% no. I mean, it's just like what I enjoy more. I think it's more fun. I think it's easier on your body. I also think that
Definitely.
no-gi is overall more technically impressive to me. When I see like someone dominate no-gi, I'm way more impressed by that than the gi. Because in the gi, you could just, there's so much stalling going on where it's like, it's so much easier to stall. And like, this is definitely also for me a byproduct of like not understanding the game as well. For sure. But I do think that there is way less, there's still stalling in no-gi, right? But it's not as easy to stall, right? Sometimes when I see guys stall in no-gi, I'm almost impressed at how they stalled, right? Whereas in the gi, it's like, it just seems like a lot easier. You just grab stuff and hold on to it, and you get one dominant position and the fucking match is over, right? Whereas no-gi, it's like, not necessarily, right? Like, look at
Easier to
Isaac,
escape pins and things.
yeah, like look at Isaac Michelle versus Wagner Hosha. Each of those guys had each other in like super dominant positions, whereas like in the gi, I think I don't know, like it's not as easy to escape, right? Like I do like a lot of like rounds starting from bad positions. Like I call this the agricultural method of learning, right? Where I will start in bad positions and I'm farming for different options to escape from positions. And like I'll start from a bad position, right? Try to get my way out. I find in the gi it's just way harder, right? There's more. It's easier for the guy to make static connections to you, so it's harder to get out, right?
Yeah.
Whereas no-gi, so you just think ways to like slip and look for stuff and get your way out.
Do you think that, I don't know if skill is the word that I want to use, but do you think that it requires more knowledge of how to control somebody's body in a no-gi situation to be able to like pin someone for long periods of time when compared to the gi? Like, I don't know if skill is the word, because there's just different skills required when you do have the gi on and when you don't. But does it require more understanding of actual immobilization to be a good pinner in no gi versus gi?
Yeah, I think it does. And I would even go so far as to say that it takes more skill to do it. Now, I think so it is an interesting thing. Like, I would never actually make the claim fully that one is more technical than the other per se, because I think for me to make that claim, I would have to I'd have to spend an equal amount of time doing both, right? And I don't, so I wouldn't actually make that claim. But I do think certain aspects of, for instance, no-gi, I think if I see someone, like, for instance, like a good example of this is Demian Maia, right? With his ability to control people without a jacket, without a gi to control, right? I look at that and I'm way more impressed by that than pretty much anything anyone can do in the gi in terms of demonstrating control of another person, because I just think it's much harder to do. And when someone's able to do it consistently, it's very, very impressive to me. But yeah, like I said, because I don't spend an equal amount of time with both, I wouldn't go so far as to say that no-gi is definitely more technical, but I think certain aspects of it and certain aspects of the gi are probably also more technical, but yeah.
Isn't Damian Maia grappling GSP? Is that still happening?
I don't know. I stopped hearing about that. Last I heard, GSP, they're just announcing him as the commentator for the event, which is like,
oh,
okay.
Really? What?
Yeah.
What about that? What about that card tomorrow night? You're gonna watch that or what?
What's the card?
Who's number 1? 21.
Oh, I didn't even know it was.
Are you following that at all?
No. I mean, I'll if there's good matches, maybe I'll watch after. But yeah, no, I didn't even know what's happening.
Do you follow competitive jiu-jitsu? Like, would you watch like an event like the IBJJF Crown?
I follow ADCC. Like, I watch every trials. Like, I like almost every single match. Not literally every single one, because there are a fuckload, but like I'll watch like quarterfinals on for almost every division for trials. I watch a lot of older ADCC. I watch a fair amount of IBJJF Nogi, and I'll watch like big super fight shows too, right? Like, I'm sure eventually. So Giancarlo is going against somebody,
Barboza,
right? Yeah. And so it's the Fight Pass event, right?
I'm pretty sure it's Flow Grappling. Who's number 1? I think is Flow Grappling.
Oh, okay. But there's a UFC. I know there's a UFC Fight Pass event coming up, like Nicky Rod versus Yuri Samoish. Like, I want to see that. Yeah.
Victor Hugo versus Big Dan, I think, is on that card.
Yes. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, like, I follow. So I'm not like I've never been like a sports fan type of guy, right? Like, I don't really
Me
yeah,
neither.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And so like for me, like when I watch matches, it's mainly for the purposes of like, hold on one second. Is that the way it's me?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, man. That's
There you
my
go.
fucking.
It's off now.
Nah, it's gonna come back. It's my computer overheating.
Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, this is a good computer. I think it's just like because the Wi-Fi is so bad from my phone's hotspot. It's so shit that does this. I mean, look, man. Is this like unlisten toable? Like the audio?
No, this is fine. We're gonna leave this shit in.
Okay. Right.
This is fine. I don't edit this shit at all. People are gonna hear all of it. Let's just continue unless it fucking craps out on us.
Okay.
So do you know the matches that are on Who's Number One tomorrow night? Have you heard of the matchups?
No, not really.
Dude, it's fucking crazy.
It's a good event.
Yeah, so okay, I made my predictions today. So Helena Krivar is fighting some other, I forget that chick's name. But after that, it gets really crazy. Like Cody Steele fighting Mika Galvao. Roosevelt Souza is fighting Luke Griffith. Baby Shark's fighting Pato. You know, there's some sick fights. What else? Match. Oh, yeah, Lovato and Mourinho. So there's some really good matches for sure. You should check that out.
Yeah.
What do you think about? Yeah, I was just gonna bring that one up. What do you think about Diogo? I really want to see Micah and Cody because I know it'll just be a brawl. But I agree. I'm most excited. I think for the Pato and Baby Shark fight. Who do you think's gonna win that?
It's Who's Number One rules, right? So submission only.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I would pick Pato under submission only, but you never know. You know, I mean, like who has more Instagram followers?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what.
Is that what it's based on?
I mean, to remember that match with Gabby Garcia versus I forget her name, female trials winner in North America. I forget her name. She's really good. But anyway,
Campo?
Was that not Campos? No. It was a Who's Number One match. You know who I'm talking about.
I wonder if that's the same girl Krivar is fighting. No, it's not. I don't think so.
No, it's definitely a different girl. This girl.
I know who you're talking about though, right? And she lost to her. Gabby lost.
But I mean, under Who's Number One rules, I was like, how did she lose? Like, Gabby literally just laid on top of her the whole time, and this girl had a couple like sort of. We weren't super close, but she went for submissions. So shouldn't under the rule set she win? I don't know. I think they also factor in how big is your Instagram following.
Oh really?
Much bigger. I'm kidding around, obviously.
Don't they? I think they break it into 3 5-minute blocks when the judges score it, don't they?
Okay, yeah. I mean, anyway, I really thought that this girl. I thought clearly, if the criteria is submission offense, right? The only person who offered any submission offense was this girl. Gabby didn't do anything the entire match, so like I think that this girl should have got it. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I think when you have decisions in jiu-jitsu matches, unless so ADCC can have decisions, right? But I think ADCC decisions, maybe it's just because I've been on the reffing end of things and I've like sort of experienced like what goes into making an ADCC decision that I understand it better, but it makes a little bit more sense to me. Like there's very specific things that I know that if you look out for these things, you can fairly reliably predict who's going to get the decision. Now, not always. There are some matches where it's just impossible to say. It's almost like a coin flip. But I do think that ADCC decisions are relatively predictable if you understand the criteria. But some events, like I just have no idea sometimes. Like, you know, you almost just can't even like, you just have to take it for what it is, right? Like, you got to just take it on the chin and just move forward, right? You know, yes,
like mostly the difference I find with ADCC and let's say IBJJF is the initiations, right? That's like it's a completely different rule set. It's a different sport almost, the ADCC rule set when compared to like IBJJF rules, but the emphasis on initiations under the ADCC rule set, that seems to be like the main strategic difference.
Yeah. So in my opinion, the ADCC rule set is overall the best. There's no perfect rule set, and ADCC also has its problems, but I think overall it's the best. And I think that the biggest difference between ADCC and IBJJF, which makes ADCC a better rule set for the athletes and for the fans, like people watching, right, is, okay, IBJJF is a game where almost scoring or scoring once and then being highly conservative after the fact is encouraged, right? It's a very smart strategy to pursue almost scores or to maybe score once or twice, and then from that point be highly conservative after the fact, right? If you have a couple advantages, you can get and the almost scores are so like, I don't know, like, and I'm not a certified IBJJF ref, and I haven't done that many IBJJF tournaments, so I'm maybe someone who's more knowledgeable than me. Probably someone more knowledgeable than me could more reliably predict when advantages are going to be given, right? But sometimes I watch IBJJF events and I'm like, I don't understand why that was an advantage and that wasn't. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to reliably predict it if you understand the rule set very well, or maybe it's just relatively random and impossible to predict. I don't know, right? But I will just say that I think that when you have a game wherein being highly conservative is encouraged, right? Of course, the athletes are going to do that, right? It makes complete sense. That's exactly what I would do, right? The athletes want to win matches, right? That's all we care about. We want to win matches, right? So it's like, if it's in my best interest to be highly conservative, I'm going to be highly conservative. But if the rule set, so ADCC by contrast is a game wherein it's extremely hard to score. The scoring criteria is very strict. It's very, very hard to score. So as a result, you get people fighting way, way harder, right? So there's no almost scores in ADCC, right? There are no advantages, right? So you have to fight really hard. Like, let's say it goes judge's decision, right? Like, almost scoring in IBJJF, you have that, and then you can ride that out. ADCC, you can't do that. There's nothing you can ride out except for an actual score, and an actual score is very hard to get. And on top of that, the refs are like, we are heavily encouraged to give like calls for action, warnings, and you only get 2 warnings per ADCC match. So a warning is a formal thing, right? So if a ref says action, that's not a warning, right? So a ref yelling action is like a call to action, but then eventually when they give an actual warning, first warning, final warning, right? There's only 2 warnings per match, and you can get warnings for passivity or for other things, right? Like, if you talk shit to the other guy, the ref can give you a warning for that. You're not allowed to talk to the other guy. So when I ref, if the guy talks to the other guy and he's not doing it in a disrespectful way, I give him a like non-formal warning. I just say, hey man, you can't talk to the other guy, right? So I won't give him a formal warning for that, because to me it's like, okay, I had a bunch of guys at Asian trials that I ref recently who were like friends, and they were just kind of like, they were like joking around mid-match, right? That's whatever. You're not doing anything wrong, but technically it's not allowed in the rules, so I told them to stop, right? But if someone talks shit to someone else, no, that's a warning. Now, I've never had anyone do that in any matches, so I've never had to like do that, but like, yeah, that's written into the rules. Anyway, yeah, the main point is that it's like ADCC encourages aggression, right? And the judging criteria is heavily centered around that, right? So for instance, I used to think, right, before I refed for ADCC, I thought that, so if you look at like the bottom turtle situation, right? So tactically from bottom turtle, is it smarter let's say you're not necessarily very good at wrestling, right? So from bottom turtle, does it make more sense to try to roll to guard or to try to reverse or escape, right? I thought the answer was obvious, because if you look at the points criteria, let's say you're in bottom turtle, 3 seconds transpire. So every time something changes positionally, it takes 3 seconds for that to become like the official new position, right? So if I shoot a double on you and you go down to your hip and then you turtle up, if I put you down to your hip under 3 seconds, that's still a takedown, right? But if it's over 3 seconds, the situation is now changed into a turtle situation, right? So it's not turtle yet until 3 seconds have transpired. Anyway, so once you're in turtle, if the bottom man somehow, let's say that the guy on top throws a hook in, and then the turtle guy 4 points, and the top guy falls off, and then the turtle guy gets on top. Is that a sweep? Is that a reversal? ADCC, they're called reversals, not necessarily sweeps, right? No,
That's not though.
It's not. It's not, because it's not chest to chest. So there's no
Right.
points. Yeah. So I looked at that tactically and I thought to myself, okay, it doesn't make any sense to try to reverse from turtle. You're not going to get any points. Why would you do it? You should focus on getting back to guard. So if you remain in turtle, okay, over 3 seconds, and then you roll to guard, even if you fail to get it, if they get to side control, that's no points, because that's not a guard pass. Now, if they need to go to Niambele or they go on mount, that would need points, because those are positional points, right? But,
Right.
it's relatively easy to prevent that, I think, when you're rolling to your back. So I thought, okay, tactically, it makes more sense to shell up and then roll to your back. So I looked at Craig Jones' strategy for power bottom, and I was like, this is unnecessarily risky under the rule set. You are giving them opportunities to get the hooks in and score on you. You should just shell up, wait 3 seconds, roll to your back. But now I understand that's actually not intelligent it's not just the points, it's the judging criteria that you have to factor into consideration. Because if you fight to get up and you flip the guy over to you, right, then you get on top, yeah, maybe you didn't get any points, but the aggressiveness of that, the fact that you're the one pushing forward to attack the guy, that's considered very heavily in the ADCC judging criteria, right? So attacking the guy, going forward, being the one pursuing offense, that is like super crucial to winning ADCC matches when the judges and the mat rep, when they're involved, right? So and in tightly contested matches, that is super common. Because it's so hard to score, because the scoring criteria is so strict, many high-level matches come down to the judge's decision. And I think it's relatively straightforward to see who's going to win the match based on that criteria, if you understand how it's intended to work. It's intended to encourage the athletes to be offensive, to attack, to move forward. Whereas with IBJJF, there is no comparable sort of encouragement in the rule set to get the guy to go forward, right? I still really respect the guys that succeed in IBJJF. And I might do, in the future, I think I'll probably do more IBJJF events. If there were more IBJJF events in Asia, I would have done one by now. But there aren't, right? So I haven't really had the opportunity. Yeah.
And ADCC doesn't just prioritize initiations, but they prioritize like initial initiations. So if I shoot a double on you and you lock up a guillotine on me and I take you down and you have the guillotine and you hip heist up, and then like we both reset, even if, or let's say, no, I'll choose a better example. Maybe I shoot a double on you, you lock a guillotine and I'm forced to roll to the bottom position, but then I escape everything and I get out. I would be the one who is awarded the initiation because, I guess they call it the invisible advantage, right? And that would be my initiation, even though I almost got a takedown, you almost got a submission, because I was the one who went for it first. They would prioritize mine, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like initiation is very crucial, because initiation shows the table judges and the mat rep who is the one pushing forward, trying to attack. And I think that the best tactical ADCC grapplers, there's like a skill set in ADCC of pretending like you're the one attacking, right? Like some guys are masters of this, right? So it's almost like a fascinating little meta game that happens where it's like, guys, okay, so I was reffing a match. I felt kind of bad about this, but it is what it is. There were two guys. Both of them were really not doing anything. So I made a call to action. I said, both athletes, action. Both athletes, action. One guy shoots a double right away. He gets guillotine choked. And fuck, man. Like, that sucks, right? Because he's the one, he's going after it, but then he lost, right? That's why people, obviously, when you attack, you take a risk, right?
Of course.
Yeah, for sure, right? So some guys get really, really good at taking, it's almost like a paradox, conservative risks, right? They get really, really good at taking conservative risks. I think the master of this is Wagner Hochschild. This dude is he's super good at, like, he will attack you, but he does it in ways where he's definitely the one who is being, more aggressive, but he's minimizing his risks as he does it, right? Just an example, right?
I think someone who kind of really opened my eyes to that style when I was at East Coast Trials was Dorian Olivarez. Have you trained with him at B Team? Have you been in the room with him at the same time?
Yeah, we've rolled like a lot actually, maybe like.
Oh,
6,
nice.
7. Yeah. He's super.
Super good. I'd never heard of this kid, right? He's 17 years old. I think he's like a multiple time All-American and Texas state champion wrestler. I think he's the bantamweight combat jiu-jitsu world champion. Like the kid is just, he's going to be like a legend basically. And when I was watching him and also a couple other guys, Elijah Dorsey, who when he fought Nicky, these guys were playing, but mostly I noticed Dorian doing it. They're playing a style where they're engaging the guard player, like he basically runs a circle around the guy, and he's changing angles, like he's basically trying to run to north-south, it looks like, and he's creating the reactions from the guard player. And all the guard player can kind of do at that range is just face him, and he never lets the guard player actually fix grips or get wedges behind his arms or legs. So there's no actual danger of a submission because he knows how to just hang out in that sweet spot, that distance where he is forcing a reaction. He's winning in the eyes of the judges, but he's not actually like. And then every now and then it appears that he'll shoot like almost like a no-gi knee cut or a no-gi long step and create the high leg reaction, and then he's waiting for that reaction to duck under the leg, and repeat process. And if at any point the person on the bottom kind of locks up any grips or tries to attack the legs, he just backs out and just changes angles and does it again. And I'm like, man, this is kind of genius against these like really tricky guard players where if you go into their guard, you're just fucked. Like Nicky Ryan in East Coast Trials, just leg locking, submitting everyone. If you just go into his guard, you're absolutely fucked. But if you play that sort of outside passing style and you know how to manage the distance and you can look busy without really risking too much, right? And then a guy like Dorian, if it goes to overtime, he's just such a sick wrestler. Like that's exactly where he wants it to go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you basically hit the nail on the head with that, right? It's like, it's finding ways to continue, because you have to be aggressive under the rule set, but finding ways to minimize risk as you do so, right? Like I think that athletes are always going to try to win with as little risk as possible, right? Like, of course. So, like,
makes sense.
Yeah, it just makes sense, right? From the athlete's perspective, like, for instance, like if I go do a tournament and I win in the most exciting fashion possible, or I win in the most boring fashion possible, I still won no matter what, right? So it's like, if being boring is safer, then people are going to do that, right? And so, yeah, the ADCC rule set, I think, does a pretty good job of encouraging aggression. And I think that, it's just like it's a part of the nature of the sport that there's going to constantly be this back and forth between rule sets, which we try to design to make things exciting, and athletes who try to find boring workarounds so that they can win while minimizing risk. And yeah, I mean, I look at this and I'm like, I think this is not as bad as other rule sets, right? Like it's not anywhere near as boring as other rule sets. It's still more exciting overall. Yeah. And so, yeah.
So I've done a lot of comparisons. I actually did an episode on comparing ADCC to IBJJF rule set. And, you'd mentioned that ADCC is more friendly for the spectator and the competitor. I couldn't agree more. Like there's certain things about ADCC I really like. For example, you can talk to the ref. You are allowed to like ask or if you feel that something is happening that shouldn't be happening, you don't get penalized for bringing up something to the referee. And there's also, the referee is not really responsible for the judging. It's the table guys who do the judging, right? So the referee is more just a communicator, it appears, between the athlete and the table. And I find having this kind of impartial referee that is not burdened with the responsibility of making all the fucking decisions, I find that just having that kind of like second and third party watching from the side just makes it so that the matches are just, it's harder to fuck up calls, I guess you would say. And also the referee doesn't feel, he doesn't feel that he has to like stand by his decision once. I've noticed this just in general at ADCC. The referees I feel like they have less ego when it comes to like changing their minds. Like they're okay to have their mind changed in general. Their overall mindset, I find, is better than IBJJF. But also, there's the other opinions, and the referee doesn't. I don't know. Is the referee a third judge? I don't think they are. Right?
They are. Yeah, the referee.
They are the third judge.
So, for instance,
Okay.
if the two table judges are conflicted, the mat referee will be the deciding factor. So, the mat referee, like for instance, there were many matches where I was the deciding factor at trials, right? Where I was working as a mat referee, and the two table judges would disagree, and then I would make the final decision. It comes down to you ultimately, and you can, you have like some power to sort of like not award points. The judges award the points, but the mat referee can make like recommendations, right? So for instance, if you think that there was a situation wherein an athlete should have gotten points and they didn't, you can pause the match, go over to the judges, tell them, hey guys, I don't know if you saw this, right? But this athlete had this blah, 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 whatever. And then maybe they'll give them the points, right? Because sometimes the judges are static, right? They can't, like a common situation is like where the athletes are turned away from the judges in such a way that they can't see whether like both hooks are inside, right? For the back, right? So you have to, if you're the one, the mat ref, you're the one who can move around the mat. You can actually get a different vantage point. You have to, basically what you do is you give them a thumbs up, right? So you'll like, you hold your hand low. Have you ever seen an ADCC ref holding his hand low and then giving a thumbs up? That's him saying, yes, the back, they have the back. Or like any other situation, right? Any other criteria that are fulfilled, they'll give the guys thumbs up. That means, yes, they got the points, right? And then the judges will, in my experience, I'm sure this is very varied because like the different regions, different ADCC federations are going to have their own ways of doing things. Like I've never reffed as an ADCC ref. I've only reffed in Asia. I've never reffed in North America. I've never reffed in Europe. I've competed in those regions, but I've never reffed, right? So I've only reffed in Asia. I've worked as a ref under Shinya Kakimta, who's the head of ADCC Southeast Asia, who just ran trials. And I've also worked under Marco Leisting, who's the head of ADCC Europe, and he's also the overall head ref of the ADCC World Federation. So usually if I have questions, he's the one that I go to. Like I was asking him a lot, like he's the top guy. Like if he says it, then that's what it is, right? So yeah, but yeah, I felt like I thought the judges that I worked with for trials were very like, you know, sort of open-minded about in terms of like, when as the mat rep, I would say, oh, this happened and this happened. They'd be very open-minded about it. Like, yeah. And that you do have some power in terms of like, you act as the final judge. If the two table judges agree, then your opinion is irrelevant. But if they don't agree, then your opinion becomes, you know, that the deciding factor. So yeah.
How do you feel about, sorry, say that again.
I would say you still need to pay attention to that stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about matches going out of bounds? I mean, obviously it's awesome to watch. It's super exciting. And if you've ever been to like a trials or an open, even when the fights go out of bounds, everyone, it's just like, it brings the place alive. You know what I mean? But that being said, there is, I think, a higher chance of injury, even though I think the injuries that happen off the mats are probably pretty rare, aside from some like carpet burn or whatever. But potentially you could have someone in the middle of a takedown exchange getting thrown hard on the floor or getting picked up and slammed hard on the floor. What's your thoughts on that? Do you like it?
So the reason that is the case is because everything in ADCC is 3 seconds, right? So there's 3 seconds to stabilize a position. So if athletes are actively moving and there's no stability wherein you can start counting 3 seconds, then like you're supposed to let them keep going until there's stability for 3 seconds. And then you can stop them and then you can move them back into the center and reset the position, right? So that's kind of the logic behind it. I mean, I think it's a good thing, right? I like the idea that, you know, so often in like smaller local tournaments or even IBJJF, guys will roll out of bounds and then you'll maybe have like a tight submission or a really good position. Like one time I was at a local tournament in the US where a guy had the fucking back and then they rolled out of bounds and then they reset them standing up. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he had his fucking back. And he didn't even get the points for it because it wasn't long enough to get the points. So it was like, oh, he got his fucking back. Like, how do you not reset them in the position, right? So ADCC, we always try to give the guy the position that he earned, right? And so, but yeah, of course, you're absolutely right that there's like definitely increased danger. So one match that I ref, Ethan Thomas versus David Stoyle, it was the semifinals. I don't know if you saw this, where Ethan Thomas shot a takedown on David, and Ethan had like a standing body lock, and he drove so hard that they crashed into the table and they crumpled the table, and the laptop and everything fell. And then if you watch the clip, you see me running that down, and I started yelling, stop. And a lot of people were saying that there's nothing you could have done because it happened so fast. I just happened to, unfortunately, be on the opposite side of them, right? Like if David had been the one who drove into Ethan, I would have been able to stop them, because Ethan was the one who drove into David. Just because of where I happened to be standing, I couldn't stop them. But I fucking sprinted after them and yelled, stop. Yeah, the position will always get reset where the ref yells stop. So when you say stop, no matter what happens after that, that's irrelevant. It's when you yell stop, right? So I tried to think what were they doing when I first yelled stop, and so that's where I reset them. And fortunately, neither of those guys. I mean, I don't know if there were any injuries, but they weren't seriously injured because Ethan won the whole tournament, and then David got third place. So, okay, they clearly could not have been that injured from it, right? But yeah, I mean, it could have been way worse. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's maybe not ideal, but in a world where, I've thought to myself, like, how could we get around this? Well, if you had giant mats, imagine if you had giant mats the size of like football stadiums. All right, it would never happen then, right? But that's obviously impractical. You can't have that. So I look, the choice is ultimately between a higher degree of safety, but when the athletes go out of bounds, they're going to lose more positions. And what that's going to do is it's going to encourage athletes to defensively roll out of bounds to get resets, right? So, for instance, for myself, when there was a match I had when I was a purple belt, this match stands out to me. I got an outside heel hook on the guy, right? We rolled all the way across the mat. We went out of bounds, and I got stood up, right? So in ADCC, that will not happen. You're going to get reset in the position most of the time. I mean, I've seen refs not do this, but you're supposed to do this, right? You're supposed to take a look at the situation as they roll out, wait for a certain degree of stability, and then reset them. We were also told that if something was obviously extremely dangerous, you stop it regardless, right? Even for submissions, actually, right? So
stop it what and reset standing?
Yeah. So if something is like excessively dangerous, right? Like let's just imagine. Okay, so
like a Rusamar Palhares, David Avalon situation.
Well, no, not like that. More so like, I mean, like, okay, so one of the tournaments that I worked, ADCC Phuket, there was the venue was very small. There was like a concrete column that the athletes potentially could have gone flying into in the middle of the room. Yeah, not the ideal spot for this, but it is what it is. Fortunately, that it never happened. But like we were told, like, look, guys, if people are careening towards this, you stop the match. You stop the match because it's not obviously someone hits that, there's a high chance of injury, right? So nothing happened. Yeah. No one went careening into it, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna allow someone to crack their skull open just so that the other guy can get a back body lock, right? Like that doesn't make sense, right? It's always going to be a balance between sort of like the integrity of the fight and the safety of the athletes. So these two differing sort of values are being negotiated between, right? And I think that ADCC does a good job of it overall, right? I mean, I haven't seen any horrible injuries from this. I mean, like at times at times it's almost like that Cody Steele clip. That's the famous one. Like at times it's almost like it looks a little ridiculous. It also looks awesome, right? At the same time, right? So it's
so like, awesome.
Yeah, I support it. I like it. I think it's good, because like, and the other thing, like, I just think it's like maybe for opens, they should be a little bit more erring on the side of safety. But for an event like trials, where the competitors are professional athletes attempting to win a slot in the most coveted overall jiu-jitsu tournament in the world, right? It's like these guys know what they're signing up for, right? Trials are a different beast than opens, right? So opens maybe be a little bit more erring on the side of safety, but for trials, the way I looked at it was like, I let guys go pretty far, right? Like, I'm like, these guys are fighting for their dreams, right? They flew in from all over Asia to fight for their dreams, right? Like, like one guy had a pretty horrible gash on his head, and the doctor was like, so we stopped the match. We got the doctor to come over. The doctor was like, yeah, I think you guys should stop this fight. It was 30 seconds into the fight. It was his first fight. This guy flew all the way from China. And I just was like, no, we're going to continue. I just separated the fighter and the doctor. The doctor was like, what? I asked the guy, I said, do you want to fight? He goes, of course I want to fight. I want to fight. I was like, okay. So I reset it. And I'm like, he's not going to die from this. He's got a cut on his head, right? He's not going to die, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, to this guy, the opportunity to fight for trials, it means more to him than the potential risk that's going to come from this cut. And it sucks, right? Fortunately, it actually didn't reopen, so I got lucky. But like, I was a little worried that it was going to like burst and gash everywhere. But it did it. And then he won that match. He won that match, and then he lost his second match. It is what it is, right? But he came up to me afterwards and he thanked me for like not stopping the fight. And would it have been safer to stop the fight? Yeah. But I mean, like, bro, it's trials. This guy flew here from China to fight for trials. It's probably his dream. Who knows how long he's been training for to accomplish, trials. It means a lot. I know how much it means to me, and I can only imagine what it means to the other athletes, right? So I wanted to give them all as much of a chance, as they could. So, yeah.
So we had kind of, at least for my school, and I guess this might be the same experience that you're having, like there seems to be a little bit of a decline in the gi and more of an interest in no gi. At least that's what's happening in my academy. The turnouts for no gi are way better. And for an event like IBJJF, we've already established that it's a little bit, it favors, I'm not going to say it favors, but it's more, there's more of an opportunity to stall. There's more of an opportunity to play that conservative game, right? And I think this is kind of one of the biggest criticisms that anyone will tell you if they're on the no-gi bandwagon these days, or if they're like, yeah, there's just, the gi is not as exciting. No-gi is more exciting. It's more fan-friendly. And like, I don't know, I think you probably think that. I think that. So what do you think of this? What if ADCC made a gi division under that rule set that favored initiations, heel hooks, basically the exact same rule set, but now a gi ADCC championship? What do you think of that idea?
I think that it would probably help make it more exciting, but I also still think that the stalling would still be bad because of the nature of like how much easier it is to just establish and maintain grips in the gi. So I don't know how much. I think it might help a little bit, but I don't think it would help that much. I just think grappling without a jacket is going to inherently be a little bit more exciting because of the fact that it is harder to, it's more like movement based, right? Like it's
definitely more movement based.
Yeah. And even if you are controlling someone, there's, you can't just statically control someone. So for instance, ADCC, let's say I pass your guard and I'm holding onto a body lock. Let's say I pass your guard, I hold onto a body lock, and let's just imagine that there's no stalling calls whatsoever. Bro, it's pretty easy to hold that body lock and just ride out that points lead. And it's very easy to do that, right? Just hold the guy down, stay chest to chest, hold the body lock. But under the rule set, you can't, or you have to make positional advancements, right? Like you're going to get hit with stalling calls. Let's say you pass someone's guard in the first 4 seconds that points are on the board and you hold the body lock. Okay, a guard pass under ADCC rules is 3 points. You get 2 warnings and then you start accumulating minuses. If you hold that body lock for the entire match and you get the appropriate amount of warnings and then minuses, you're going to lose the match because you're going to get more minuses than you have points. And under ADCC rules, points are cumulative, right? So negative points and positive points carry equal weight. It's not like IBJJF where, did they have minus points in IBJJF?
Penalties.
Penalties. Okay, so penalties. If I have 35 penalties, but 2 points, the 2 positive points, they override the penalties, correct?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that's not how it works in ADCC. ADCC, they take the total tally and they add it up, right? You know, negative points, positive points, boom. That's the number, right? Positive points don't override negative points.
Well,
I
should say technically I should say in IBJJF, if you get 4 penalties, you get DQ'd. And I remember I was watching the Triple Crown. I think it was last week, and it was a match between who was it? I can't remember the one guy. The other guy was Gabriel Hosha, right? And it was a double DQ. It's just like, fuck, man. It's hard to see that, like, this like prestigious event, the first of its kind, IBJJF Crown, and it was just like double DQ because nobody wanted to take the fight to the ground. These guys are huge, right? And I found, for the most part, a lot of the fights were pretty lackluster. So the 2 guys that I was impressed with watching, like anytime Diego Pato fights, it's exciting, but it can turn into like a who can stand up battle, which the gi game does turn into a lot. But the 2 guys that I liked watching were obviously Tainan Dolpra and Sam Nagai. He was really fun to watch too, but for the most part, I found the matches pretty boring.
Yeah, so it's funny. I actually remember hearing that the event was pretty boring. But yeah, I mean, and I think maybe the ADCC rule set would help it to some degree, but I don't know. I think that it's much more difficult to make gi exciting, just overall, because of the nature of how easy it is to maintain grips. Like, the ref would have to give constant, like, I give the example of like the body lock, right? But that is a rare example of something wherein you can maintain static control in no-gi for relatively long periods of time. In the gi, it's much easier. There are way more things you can do to maintain static control for long periods of time, right? So that body lock situation...
Hold on a sec, bro. It looks like your camera gave out.
Oh, I can still... On my end, I can still see it.
You can see me? It says recording continues smoothly. Live video will return when internet improves. So, okay, I think we're still recording. Sorry, you were saying?
Yes. Got the Wi-Fi here.
We're just talking about how how it'd be less, or how it'd be hard to make the gi exciting, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, just because it is easier to maintain.
What if you allow heel hooks and you create a situation where there aren't advantages, where it's harder to score? And keep in mind, when someone turtles in the gi, I find it's so much worse than in no gi. You know what I mean? When someone turtles in the gi, I think it's so much easier to take advantage of that. There's ways you can strangle them without even putting the hooks in, and having like an overtime round where they have to stand. Just the fact that you could be able to heel hook and reap in the gi, I think it would just be a completely different style of gi jiu-jitsu that we haven't really seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think that, like, as you talked about earlier, I think heel hooks in the gi are pretty trash, actually. Like, I think it's very hard.
Why?
It's so hard, man. Like, imagine, like, okay, the best way I can describe it is this. If you've ever rolled with Ethan Krellenson and you've tried to leg lock him, right? Imagine doing that, but now you have a piece of clothing onto you, which he can grab and hold. Holy fuck. I think it sounds horrible. Like, it just... I think it's so hard to not get smashed. I don't want to say it's impossible. Obviously, nothing is impossible, but it raises the difficulty level substantially.
So you're saying it's harder to finish people in the gi, where because I've always said that, even though we don't do heel hooks in the gi at my school for obvious reasons, because you can't do it in IBJJF. But I've always said that my immediate thought for heel hooks in the gi that it would actually be more difficult to do them, because your opponent can literally grab you. Whereas I think most people say you're not allowed to do heel hooks in the gi because of the extra friction. It makes it actually harder to escape. So you're contradicting that, right?
Yeah, I think so. For instance, if someone said to me, would I legalize heel hooks in the gi? I would, because I think what it would show everybody is that it's not really, I don't even think it would change things that much. I think that some people would have some short-term success with it out the gate. And then I think everyone would realize there are ways to smash people. Like there are ways to defend heel hooks in the gi. So I've rolled a lot with heel hooks in the gi just to experiment. And like, I just found that there are ways to smash people when they're trying to heel hook you or leg lock you in general in the gi, where if you tried this in no-gi, it's probably going to lead to you getting leg locked, right? These ways of smashing people. But because you could just grab stuff and hold, right? They're forms of grips that if you attempted to make them in no-gi, you would never be able to hold them, right? Like let's imagine someone had you in saddle and you were coming up and driving into them and you were grabbing the back of their head with a collar tie. In no-gi, this is bad defense. This is like beginner entry-level defense that I would show someone never to do. You're just exposing your heel and you're going to get fucked up. But in the gi, if you come forward, you grab the collar or whatever, right? You grab the collar, you're fucking pulling that, you're driving in, right? That really can work, right? And I think that, you take a defense, which in no-gi is naive and going to lead to you most likely getting fucked up, right? In the gi, it now works, right? And then all of the other defenses in no-gi which work are going to work also, obviously, in the gi, right? I don't know, man. It's possible that, we're wrong about this. It would be interesting to see, right? Let's say we allowed heel hooks in the gi. Maybe 3 years from now, there's some kid out there who figures out an elite leg locking system in the gi. I should say I'm mainly talking about heel hooks. I think ankle locks, like Mikey Musumeci, Isaac Donerlin, they've shown that these can work. I think the reason for that is that the grip required for an ankle lock is inherently less risky because it's easier to maintain control of the person's ankle. So if you're going for a heel hook, you have less direct control of the guy's ankle, and therefore as a result, he can like move his ankle. Even if you catch the heel, right, he could slip his heel or toe slip, right, and then the knee can drive down as the ankle retracts, and that's the inherent, risk of heel hooks versus ankle locks. Whereas an ankle lock, if I have an ankle lock grip, the same grip required to do the submission will also maintain control of the ankle, making it difficult for the guy to drive down and crush you, right? It's not impossible. They can still slide their ankle back through your grip with the ankle lock, but it's harder because you have a part of your arm behind their ankle acting as a wedge. And that wedge can move, but it's still a wedge in place. Whereas a heel hook is not doing that at all. There's nothing behind the guy's, it is behind the guy's ankle, but not in a way that's preventing the ankle from going back after the slip, right? So after you escape the heel hook, the ankle can go back. After you defend the ankle lock, it's not similarly easy to retract your ankle. So I think that's a big difference. And maybe knee bars are easier in the gi too, actually, but probably easier to hold all of your hips, right? I'd be curious to see, but I don't think it would change things as much as people maybe might think.
Well, I think it would change 50-50 a little bit more, although like you said, you could just grab someone and it'd be like, it might, imagine they made, okay, we'll allow heel hooks in the gi, and we're like, okay, this is going to revolutionize 50-50. You can't stall from 50-50 anymore. You can heel hook, and they allow it, and then all it turns into is someone gets a dig, and the other guy just holds, and now it's another variation of stalling, and it doesn't fix fucking anything.
I think that is what would happen, actually. I honestly really believe
Honestly,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably would. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah. But anyway, so I do got to get going. Sorry for starting late, man. My bad on that.
No worries. Yeah, we'll just do it again, man. It was a great conversation. Is there anything you want to push before you get out of here?
No, just if you want to follow me, just go to Instagram, Robert Degle Jiu Jitsu, Robert DEGLEJJ. Feel free to ask me questions anytime about leg locks, ADCC rules, bagels, pizza, whatever you want to ask me. Shoot.
Yeah, we'll leave your contacts in the show notes in the bottom. And guys, I just want to remind you to please like, share, subscribe, comment in the bottom. Helps the algorithm. Also, if you want to support or contact the show, I'll leave the links in the bottom. Robert Degle, I'm going to let you go. Thanks a lot for the conversation, buddy.
No worries. Thanks, Greg.